Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. In today's fun model kit review video, we'll be looking at ICM's 1/32nd scale Yak-9T. I'm pretty sure this kit from ICM debuted in 2022, so it is a relatively new production aircraft from ICM. This is ICM kit number 32090. A brief history of the Yak-9. The Yak-9 was a World War II era Soviet fighter aircraft. The Yak series of fighters was produced in huge numbers during World War II, with over 30,000 of the type being delivered before war's end. The airframe on the Yak-9 was of mixed construction. It had plywood-covered wings. The structure of the fuselage was a tube frame structure, and the forward parts were covered by metal panels, and the aft section was covered either by plywood or fabric skinning. The Yak-9T was a development of the Yak-9 fighter. What separated it from the normal Yak-9 was that it housed a 37mm cannon that fired through the V of the engine and through the prop hub. It also featured a .50 caliber machine gun mounted above that in the fuselage. I actually think that this development was inspired by the P-39 Airacobra with its 37mm cannon firing through the prop hub. The Soviets received many of those aircraft under Lend-Lease, and it was a very popular aircraft in Soviet service. The Yak-9T was a popular fighter aircraft, and by the end of the conflict, 2,750 of these fighters had been delivered to frontline units. In this review, we'll take a look at the progress that I've made so far on this kit. We'll also go through the kit instructions and talk about those. We'll also talk about any problem areas to watch out for during construction. We'll look at the detail on the small parts in the interior of the aircraft. We'll also look at the clear parts and talk about the clarity and the fit of those. We'll talk about the marking options and the quality of the decals themselves. We'll look at the fit of the major parts of the airframe. We'll also look at the surface texture and surface detail on the exterior of the kit, and I'll be giving my conclusions at the end. Given its historical significance and the number of fighter aircraft actually produced during the war, the Yak-9 has been poorly served by kit manufacturers over the years. And in this review, we'll be asking the question, is this the best Yak-9 model kit produced to date? Looking at what comes in the box, there are 4 sprues of plastic parts. There are also 2 sub-sprues that have the wings attached to those, and there is a sprue of clear parts, in addition to a nice decal sheet and a color-printed instruction booklet. Moving on to the instructions, in steps 1 through 5, we are mounting the exhaust into the port side of the fuselage, and we're focusing on the cockpit framing and the controls for the left side of the cockpit. Believe it or not, steps 1 and 2 of construction are the most difficult steps in the construction process, simply due to the fact that the levers that are on the side consoles are incredibly tiny, and once you remove them from the sprue, they're almost impossible to hold with your fingers and clean up with a razor blade. I was able to get them cleaned up, I was able to get them in place, but this is a very delicate procedure. I suggest doing this on a hard floor and not over carpet. One other thing I did before adding the exhaust to the airframe was to drill out the ends of the exhaust stubs. You can see that in this picture. In steps 6 through 8, we're repeating the process for the starboard side of the fuselage. Everything went together very well here. In steps 9 through 12, we're continuing on with the right side of the fuselage. We're also building the radio compartment and seat for the aircraft, as well as the tail wheel and the instrument panel. As I said before, the small levers on the side console are probably the most tedious part of this build, but I was able to get them on successfully. The instrument panel itself also has some of these small handles, and so those will take time as well. The tail wheel itself looks good, as does the radio compartment behind the pilot. In step 13, we are gluing the fuselage halves and trapping the tail wheel, the pilot seat, the instrument panel, and the firewall between the fuselage halves. Temporarily placing these together, everything looks really nice. In steps 14 through 17, we are adding a small cover to the underside of the fuselage, and we are starting to build the engine in the aircraft. Steps 18 through 20 continue on with the build process for the engine. One thing to note in step 20 is the prop hub, and that is part E23. This required a lot of filing to get it to fit in place and additionally be able to turn. You can see the engine here as it appears at the end of step 20. At this point, we need to make a decision whether we're going to build the plane all closed up or we're going to have the engine compartment opened up. If you're going to have the plane all closed up, you want to complete steps 21 and 22. In step 21, we're just placing the engine into the airframe. And in step 22, we are gluing the engine covers in place. Again, temporarily setting everything together. It looks like the fit on these parts is going to be excellent. If you want to display the Yak-9 with an open engine compartment, then you'll be completing steps 23 through 34. And in these steps, we'll be installing a lot of additional detail onto the engine itself. We'll also be adding additional piping and structure to the engine compartment. And we'll be adding the internal framing that goes over the engine, as well as the ammunition trays for the 37mm cannon and the 50mm machine gun. Just a note, in step 29, there is a part labeled A8. For me, that part had broken during shipping. You can see that here. The tubing should form kind of a Y between the two frames. It needs to be repaired a little bit prior to being installed on the aircraft. In step 35, we're adding the gun sight and the armored glass behind the pilot's seat. And in step 36, we are building the radiator for the aircraft. In step 37, we're mounting the rear cockpit glass and gun sight. And in step 38, we're adding the armored glass to the cockpit windshield, as well as the sliding section of the canopy. Looking at the clear parts themselves, these are crisply molded, they are very transparent, and I don't anticipate any issues at all with these parts. They look very nice. In steps 39 through 47, we are working on the wing assembly itself. Steps 39 and 40 have you building the wing spar and the cockpit floor. I had no issues with these parts, they went together very well. In steps 41 to 42, we're adding the radiator underneath the wing. We're also adding the wing spar to the lower wing section. In steps 43 and 44, we are framing out the wheel wells. These parts went together nicely. In step 45, we are adding the upper wings to the lower wing, and I only had to do a little bit of trimming on the gear bay structure to get a perfect fit of the upper and lower wings. In step 46, we're adding the ailerons and the cockpit floor. That went nicely as well. And in step 47, we're adding what appears to be fuel tanks to the lower wing. As I said earlier, there were no real problems in these steps of construction. You can see the join of the upper and lower wing. I did not have to use rubber bands to get this to seat right. I just glued it together. I was able to get an excellent fit between the upper and lower wings. The gear bays themselves look very nice, although I do notice an injector pin mark on the gear bays. I'm going to have to clean those up carefully. In step 48, we're joining the wing to the fuselage. And I have not committed to glue yet, but just setting these parts together, the fit here looks superb. We should be able to get a filler-free join between the wing and the fuselage. In steps 49 and 50, we were building the tail planes. These went together flawlessly. In step 51, we are adding the tail planes and rudder to the airframe. We're also adding the lower fuselage cover. Looking at the fit on these parts, they look to be up to the same high-quality standards as the rest of the kit. In steps 52 through 56, we are building and installing the landing gear and the gear doors. I don't anticipate any problems or surprises with these steps. The wheels themselves look very nice. In steps 58 and 59, we are adding the prop and the final bits to the airframe. You can see the prop here. It looks very nice, and I don't anticipate any problems with these steps of construction. Looking at the color callouts, there are 4 marking options included in this kit. The first one is for a green and black aircraft with the Russian underside blue on the lower surfaces. And the next 3 aircraft all feature the later two-tone gray camouflage over the Russian underside blue lowers. All of the color schemes look attractive to me, so it's going to be a hard decision deciding on which aircraft to build. Looking at the decals themselves, these look to be very nicely printed. They seem to be in register, and I'm really hoping that everything goes well when I apply them to the kit. Looking at the surface detail on the exterior of the kit, the Yak-9 itself was a wooden skinned aircraft with metal panels and fabric panels. I think ICM has done a good job. I think the detail that is here is accurate. If I had one gripe, I would say the metal panels could stand some more riveting and some more detail on those, but I would rather have that than overdone, heavy-handed external detailing. The compartment that is just aft of the cockpit on the upper side of the fuselage has very light engraving and it kind of fades out. This is going to need to be re-engraved a little bit. We can see the fabric surfaces on the side of the rear fuselage. These look very nice to me. I really like this effect. Just looking at the overall fit, the shape of the aircraft, and the engineering design of this kit, I'm so happy with the fit of this kit overall. This shot really shows the smooth overall surface texture of the Yak series of fighters. I think ICM did a very good job of capturing this. I think the level of detail on the interior of the kit is great. This is going to look awesome once it's painted and detailed. The only aftermarket items I'll use on this build are a set of photo-etched seatbelts to bring up the level of detail in the cockpit. I was worried that the instructions were a little bit vague in spots, but once I actually had the parts and put them in the places indicated, the design of the plastic parts made the fit obvious, and I'm really happy with the ease of construction on this kit. I know not everyone out there is a Yak fan or a Soviet World War II aircraft fan, but to me these planes are intriguing. I was not able to build these as a kid simply because we did not have model kits of these aircraft available when I was younger. In summary, I think this is a great kit, and I think this kit is very well engineered. Is this kit the best Yak-9 kit currently available? Well, I personally have built 7 other Yak fighter aircraft kits, and this one is by far the most accurate. It's the most accurate in shape. I think ICM got the shape of the oil cooler that's under the nose of the aircraft correct. And this is the first time I've actually seen this done correctly on an injected molded kit. So that's very nice. This is certainly the best Yak model kit that I have built. I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you out there have built the ICM Yak-9T in 1/32 scale, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, model on.